For my entire life, my sister Jana has been the rock, the constant. While I packed my bags for Laredo and then Los Angeles, Jana stayed. She stayed through the scandals. She stayed through the weddings. She stayed to raise the children that weren't hers. People used to ask me, Jinger, why hasn't Jana left yet? And I never had a good answer. But today, the answer doesn't matter anymore. Because the moving truck has finally arrived. I know exactly what it feels like to look in the rearview mirror and see that big house getting smaller and smaller. I know the fear, but I also know the freedom that waits on the other side. I'm Jinger, and today we are going to tell the story I've been waiting years to tell. The story of how my big sister Jana finally chose herself. Is she getting married? Is she moving alone? And how is my dad handling the loss of his most loyal lieutenant? Let's talk about Jana's new beginning. Growing up, we didn't really have cores. We had jurisdictions. And somehow Jana's jurisdiction became everything. You guys have called her the Cinderella of the Duggar family for years. And honestly, you weren't wrong. I remember waking up in the morning and Jana would already be up. She'd be organizing the homeschool curriculum, prepping breakfast for the little ones, or sewing a dress that needed to be ready by noon, while the rest of us eventually moved out. Jill married Derek, Jessa married Ben, and I moved to Texas with Jeremy. Jana stayed. She became the default parent. When mom was exhausted, Jana stepped in. When dad needed a project managed, Jana managed it. Over time, I think the family just forgot that she had dreams too. She was so good at being the keeper of the home that everyone assumed that was all she wanted to be. But I saw the tiredness in her eyes. I saw the moments where she would look out the window while the rest of us were packing our bags. Leaving the big house wasn't just about moving furniture. For Jana, it meant resigning from a job she never applied for, but performed perfectly for 30 years. Seeing her finally put down that burden, it brings tears to my eyes. To understand why it took so long, we have to talk about the teaching. In the IBLP, we were taught the concept of the stay. At home daughter, the rule was simple but absolute. Daughter remains under her father's authority and roof until she is transferred to her husband's authority. There was no moving out for college. There was no getting an apartment with friends. Those things were considered dangerous. They were seen as stepping out from under your umbrella of protection. For Jana, this was the invisible wall. Even though she was a grown woman, capable, smart, Talented, she was spiritually bound to that house until a man came to get her. That is a terrifying pressure. It means your freedom is entirely dependent on someone else choosing you. I struggled with this too before I married Jeremy. The fear that if you step out on your own, disaster will strike. Jana lived with that fear looming over her for a decade longer than I did. So when we see her driving away in U-Haul today, we aren't just seeing a move. We are seeing her breaking the psychological chains that said she couldn't survive without a headship. People have speculated for years. Why is Jana single? Is she too picky? Does Jim Bob scare the guys away? I've heard it all. And I want to set the record straight. Jana wasn't left on the shelf. She chose to wait. There were suitors. Trust me, there were plenty of guys who wanted to court Jana Duggar. But Jana has a strength that a lot of people miss. She wasn't willing to just marry the first guy who walked in with a Bible and a side hug request. She saw what happened in some of our other marriages. She saw the struggles. I think Jana decided a long time ago that she would rather be single in her garden than trapped in a marriage that wasn't right. That takes guts, especially in our culture where being an old maid at 25 is looked down upon. She watched me move away. She watched Jill go through her trials. And I think she took notes. She protected her heart. So the reason she is moving out now isn't because she finally found someone. It's because she finally found the right situation. She refused to settle, and I respect her so much for that. Now, let's talk about Steven. You guys have seen the photos. You've seen the speculation. And yes, Steven Wisman is a huge part of this new chapter. But this isn't just about a wedding. Steven is different. He comes from a similar background, sure, but he has a gentleness to him. When I see them together, I don't see Jana managing him like a child, which is a dynamic we see a lot in our circles. I see a partner. Steven waited too. He didn't rush. And I think that patience is what won Jana over. He didn't just want a Duggar girl. He wanted Jana. He was willing to let her take her time. Him being based in Nebraska, away from Arkansas, is crucial. Moving out doesn't just mean changing houses. For Jana, it means leaving the jurisdiction of Jim Bob. Moving to Steven's world gives her a chance to start fresh without the shadow of the big house looming over her backyard. It's the physical distance she desperately needs. When I left Iran, I mean, literally, I married Jeremy and moved to Laredo, Texas, and then to Los Angeles. I wanted out. I wanted pants. I wanted city life. I wanted to breathe. My exit was loud and fast. Jana's exit has been a slow, quiet walk. She didn't burn bridges the way I did initially. She kept the peace. She stayed and helped raise the younger ones. Josie, Jordan, Jennifer, until they were old enough to somewhat fend for themselves. In a way, her sacrifice allowed me to be free. Because she was there holding the fort, I didn't feel as guilty leaving. I knew Jana had it handled. But now, watching her pack that truck, it feels different. It feels like the final anchor is being lifted. My journey was about finding myself in a new city. Jana's journey is about finding herself after giving everything to everyone else. Her moving out feels heavier, but also more victorious. She earned this freedom in a way none of us other sisters did. She paid her dues, and now it's her turn. If you want to know how Jana survived staying in that house for so long, you have to look at her garden. That greenhouse wasn't just a hobby, it was her sanctuary. Growing up, the house was loud, always. Kids crying, phones ringing, film crews shouting directions. There was zero privacy. But outside, in the dirt, Jana found silence. I truly believe that garden saved her sanity. It was the one place where she had total control. She planted the seeds, she watered them, and she watched them grow, unlike inside the house, where everything was chaotic and controlled by Dad. When I visited her a few years ago, we sat in that greenhouse, and I saw a peace in her face that I hadn't seen in a long time. It was her safe room. But here is the sad part. A garden is great, but it's still a cage if you can't leave it. Moving out means leaving that beautiful garden behind, which I know is hard for her. But it also means she can finally plant roots in her own soil where no one can tell her what to grow. She is trading her sanctuary for the real world, and that is a trade worth making. This is the part that is hard to talk about, but it's the truth. My dad, Jim Bob, relied on Jana more than he would ever admit. She wasn't just a daughter. She was the manager of the Duggar estate. She handled the contractors for the renovations. She organized the family conferences. She kept the inventory for the pantry. If Jana left, the logistics of the big house would crumble. I think deep down, Dad knew that. And I think that's why there was always a subconscious pressure for her to stay. Maybe he didn't approve of certain suitors because he wasn't ready to lose his right hand woman. It's a form of codependency. He needed her competence to keep his empire running smoothly. So for Jana to finally pack that truck, an act of defiance, even if she doesn't see it that way, she is essentially firing herself from the position of CEO of the Duggar household. Dad isn't just losing a daughter. He is losing the glue that held the daily operations together. And frankly, I don't know how he is going to cope without her. We have a term in our family, sister, mom. It's exactly what it sounds like. We raised each other. But Jana was the ultimate sister, mom. She raised the first batch, the middle batch, and the last batch. Now that she is gone, who is left? The older girls are all married. The lost girls, Johanna, Jennifer, Jordan, Josie, are teenagers now. They aren't babies anymore, but they still need guidance. Jana's departure marks the official end of the sister, mom era. There is no one left to pass the baton to. Mom will actually have to, parent, or maybe hire help. For the younger girls, this is scary, but also exciting. Without Jana there to enforce the rules or smooth things over, they might have to figure things out for themselves. Jana's exit creates a power vacuum in the house, and I have a feeling the younger girls are going to use that freedom to find their own voices, just like I did. Bye. You guys remember the rumors about the teeny house or the warehouse on the property. For a long time, people thought Jana had moved into a small building in the backyard. And honestly, I think that was her first step. It was a baby step. She moved her stuff out of the main girl's room, where she was sleeping next to toddlers in her late 20s, and into a separate space on the property. It was a compromise. She was still under the umbrella, still on the land, but she had a door she could lock. That tiny taste of privacy must have been addictive. Once you realize how nice it is to not hear snoring or crying at 3 a.m., you start wanting more. That tiny house was the training wheels for this U-Haul. It showed her that she could exist in her own space. It gave her the confidence to say, okay, I can handle a house. Now I'm ready for a home that isn't in Dad's backyard. One of the biggest questions I get is, how can she afford to leave? In our world, the dad controls the money until the husband takes over. But Jana is smart. She's been flipping furniture, gardening, and honestly, she's been part of the reality show for almost 20 years. Even if Dad controlled the main contracts, I know Jana has been saving. She's resourceful. She knows how to renovate. She knows real estate. I truly hope, and I believe, that she has a freedom fund that Dad doesn't know about. Leaving requires cash. You need gas money. You need deposits. You need groceries. The fact that she is doing this tells me she is financially viable. She isn't leaving empty-handed. She is leaving as a businesswoman who finally realized her own worth, and that financial independence is the most dangerous thing to the IBLP system. People ask me, why now? Why wait until you're in your mid-30s to finally make jump? And honestly, I think it wasn't one big explosion. It was a million little moments that finally tipped the scale. We are in 2026 now. The family landscape is unrecognizable compared to 10 years ago. The show is gone. The legal battles have settled into a grim reality. And I think Jana looked around and realized the mission is over. She spent her 20s holding the family together through crisis after crisis. She felt a duty to protect the younger ones, but now Josie is almost grown. The lost girls are teenagers who have their own opinions. The urgent need for Jana to be the shield has faded. I think the breaking point was realizing that she had fulfilled her obligation. She paid her dues. And waking up one day realizing that you are the only adult child left in a house designed for a family of 20, the silence must have been deafening. She didn't leave because she was angry. She left because there was simply nothing left for her to do there. She had outgrown the container. My heart does ache a little for Mom in this. We all know the dynamic. Mom birthed us, but Jana raised us. She was the calm in the storm. She was the one who knew where the lost shoes were and what time the orthodontist appointments were. Losing Jana is different than losing me or Jill. When we left, it was sad. When Jana leaves, it's a systemic shock. Michelle is losing her executive assistant, her confidante, and her safety net all at once. I haven't spoken to Mom in depth about the move yet, but I can imagine the panic. It's the true empty nest syndrome hitting her 20 years later than most mothers. She has to figure out who she is. Without Jana there to smooth over the rough edges of her day. It's going to be a hard season for her, but I also think it's necessary. Mom needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet just as much as Jana does. We have to talk about Laura. Everyone speculates about their friendship, but let me tell you what I see. Laura Dimasi was the first person to show Jana that life could be fun without being sinful in our world. Friendships were usually with sisters. You didn't really have best friends outside the bloodline because outsiders were dangerous. But Laura came in and broke that wall. She helped Jana plan events. She traveled with her. She introduced her to interior design and graphics. I firmly believe that without Laura's influence, this move wouldn't be happening. Laura showed Jana that you can be a single woman in your 30s and have a vibrant, exciting life. She was a mirror showing Jana what was possible. Having a support system that isn't a Duggar is crucial for getting out. When I had Jeremy, he was my anchor. For Jana, Laura has been that anchor. Someone to tell her your dreams are valid when the family culture was telling her to just keep serving. The physical act of moving boxes is easy. The mental work, that is the mountain. I wrote about this in my book, Becoming Free Indeed. The IBLP teaches you that if you step out from under your father's authority, you are stepping into the line of fire. They teach you that God will withdraw his protection and disaster will strike. That fear is paralyzed. It grips you in your chest. I remember the first time I made a decision without consulting my dad. I was terrified lightning would strike me. For Jana, who lived under that teaching longer than any of us, the deconstruction process is intense. She has to fight the voice in her head that says, you are being rebellious. She has to fight the guilt of choosing herself. So when you see her driving that truck, know that she isn't just driving away from a house. She is driving through a wall of fear that has been built around her mind since birth. It is the bravest thing she has ever done. Okay, let's lighten it up a bit. Let's talk clothes. I know, it sounds superficial, but in our family, clothing is a uniform. It signals where you stand. We've already seen Jana in pants a few times on social media, but living in the big house, she still mostly defaulted to the skirts, especially when Dad was around. It's a respect thing. It's a keeping the peace thing. But now, in her own home, I can't wait to see her style evolve. I remember the first time I bought a pair of jeans that actually fit. It felt like I was putting on a new identity. It wasn't about the denim, it was about the agency. I think we are going to see a whole new Jana. We might see shorts. We might see tank tops while she gardens. And every time she puts on something that she chose, not something the modesty code dictated, it's going to heal a little part of her. She's going to realize that God doesn't love her less because of an inseam. The biggest piece of this puzzle is the destination. Is she just moving down the street in Springdale? Or is she truly leaving? If the rumors about Stephen are true, then we are looking at Nebraska. And I cannot tell you how much I am rooting for that. When I moved to Laredo and then LA, the physical distance was the most important part of my healing. You can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. If Jana stays in Arkansas, she will still be the on-call daughter. Mom will still call her for babysitting. Dad will still drop by. The boundaries will be blurry. But if she moves states, if she puts hundreds of miles between her and the compound, that is where the real freedom begins. It forces the family to function without her. It allows her to build a community that knows her as Jana, the person, not Jana the Duggar. I am praying she chooses the distance. She deserves a fresh skyline. There is a narrative out there that says Jana is only moving out because she is getting married. And while marriage might be the catalyst, I truly hope she knows she is doing this for herself. In the IBLP, a woman is simply passed from one authority to another, father to husband. I don't want that for her. I want her to know that she is a whole person on her own, even if she is moving into a home with Stephen. I hope she takes a moment, just a moment, to breathe as an individual. I hope she picks out the paint colors. I hope she drives the car where she wants to go. She has spent 34 years living for other people. The pressure to be the perfect wife is going to be heavy, just like the pressure to be the perfect daughter was. My prayer is that she realizes she doesn't have to perform anymore. She is worthy of love just by existing, not by serving. We can't end this story without talking about John David. They are the twin set, the oldest set. They share a bond that none of the rest of us really understand. John David has always been her quiet protector. He has more freedom because he is a man in this culture, but I've watched him use that privilege to shield her. He got married to Abby, who is a nurse, a working woman. And I think seeing John and Abby's dynamic opened Jana's eyes. I guarantee you John was the one lifting the heavy boxes into that U-Haul. I guarantee you he was the one telling Dad, let her go. John has his own life, his own family, but he has never left Jana behind. Knowing that she has him in her corner, someone who loves her, but also understands the craziness of our childhood, gives me so much peace. He isn't just a brother. He's her bridge to the outside world. So, what do I want for my big sister? It's simple things. I want her to wake up on a Saturday morning and realize she can sleep until 10 a.m. because no one is crying. I want her to go to a coffee shop, sit by herself, and read a book for 3 hours without guilt. I want her to wear a pair of pants and feel the sun on her legs. I want her to discover who Jana is when she isn't being Jana Duggar. Freedom isn't always big, dramatic moments. Sometimes it's just the quiet realization and belongs to you, that your time belongs to you. Jana has given decades of her time to our family. Now, she gets to keep it, and I can't wait to see what she does with it. They called her the Cinderella of Arkansas. They said she would never leave. They said she was too afraid, too loyal, too stuck. But today, the castle is in the rearview mirror. Jana's story is a reminder to every single woman watching this. It is never, ever too late. You are not too old to start over. You are not too deep in a system to find your way out. You haven't wasted your life. You were just preparing for your freedom. My sister Jana is finally driving her own truck. She is holding her own keys. And for the first time in her life, the road ahead is completely, beautifully open. I'm Jinger Duggar, Vuelo. To my sister Jana, we love you. We are proud of you, and welcome to the rest of your life. And to all of you watching, thank you for caring about her. She's free.